It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
Greetings, beloved, my favorite viewers in the whole wide world. I'm Rock Newman, and this is another Rock Newman Show 2.0 coming to you today from my high school, my alma mater, Gwynn Park High School. We were the Yellow Jackets. We are the Yellow Jackets, don't take no myth. We'll get mad at a mitt and jump in your chest. That's because we was like that. We was tough and rough, and Deion Sanders and his team, I love what he's doing in Colorado, but we was the original. We kept receipts, we brought it, we were serious. We truly, at Gwynn Park Senior High School in Brandywine, Maryland, were the little engine that could. We were the smallest school in the county, and I think in the state, and if you look up on that wall right there, you will see state champions in basketball, 1968, 1969, 1970. And the horses that pulled us across the line are all here today. I'm gonna call all their names out. It's been 54 years, but I think the mind has stayed fairly sharp, and I'm gonna call them all by name. This man right here, Bernard Brooks, Earl Hawkins, Bobby Stark, we call him Starkalark. This is George Saunders, Nathaniel Magruder, Donnie Gray. Donnie Gray and I met in the first grade and were best friends all the way through all of that time. This is Coach Larry Gandy. He was a man among men and a fabulous coach. We all loved him then, we all love him now. Sitting next to him is the point guard, James Hawkins, and he's better known as Hawk. And he wrote the book called Gwynn Park 3-Peat, because that's exactly what this little school in Prince George's County did. It won the state, not the county, not the regional, not the area, but the state championship 3 years in a row with the smallest population. Let me just say something. Let me finish introducing. Next is Fred Jones, Ron Fred Jones. Next to him was my neighbor. We grew up not far from each other at all, Lewis Martin. Lewis got a couple other names. We might get to them later. We might not. And behind him, last but not least, is Neil Ransom. And you might want to know, or they might want to know, why I say Neil to introduce last. Because I got a bone to pick with Neil Ransom. What's that bone I got to pick with Neil Ransom? Okay. Ooh, Rock Newman was deeply in love with a sister at Gwynn Park High School. Her name was Ivia Brooks. And we were sitting in the bleachers one day when we had a talent contest. Neil not only was physically gifted and probably the fastest person in the school, he had artistic talent. The boy could sing. And there was this song called You Got Me Going in Circles. I can't sing, but Neil Ransom could sing. And so Neil was walking around the gymnasium singing, You Got Me Going in Circles. And damn it, Neil, you spent too long looking in Ivia's eyes. I'm like, well, say what? Oh man. So in addition to being absolute competitors, These are good guys. They were good guys then and great guys now, 53 years later. 53 years later. So the book I held up, Gwynn Park 3-peat, it was written by the point guard extraordinaire. If I'm ever wrong in any of my memories, y'all, just check me and say, man, you don't know what you're talking about, or something like that. Hawk, you started all 3 years, sophomore, junior, and senior year as the point guard, right?
Yes.
And you wrote this book. What made you want to write this book?
Point from the view. It's a Gwynn Park 3-peat, point from the view.
Point from the view.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, the first book I wrote was a history of the Hawkins family.
Okay.
Then a year later, I was thinking about writing another book, and it dawned on me at that time, it was the 50th anniversary of the 3-peat. So I said, wait a minute, I ought to write a book on that.
Uh-huh.
And then a few months later, Kevin Durant came out with his documentary about PG County basketball.
Right.
But I said, it didn't quite go back far enough.
Uh-huh.
It was great, but it didn't go back far enough. So let me write this book. So
Yeah.
that's when I decided to write the book.
Wow.
And I got some input from some of the people here.
Uh-huh.
And I already collected a lot of the articles and stuff for when I played. I had a book with a lot of articles in it, so I pulled it all together and started writing it and wrote it in 2020.
And most of the guys here, let me let you know, didn't just play basketball. Just about everybody, many of us played football and baseball. So out of a population of what I think was 48 boys, our graduating class in 1970 had 99 students. And I think we had 48 guys. So out of 48 guys, we win all these championships. We won a baseball championship. We competed in football. And before I go all the way to the basketball, we've got in here, I introduced you to Lewis Martin. The nickname in high school for Lewis was Crab Legs. Lewis was Bow Legs. So his nickname was Crab Legs. And Fred Jones became known as Betty Jones. Oh, that's the story.
Yes.
That's the story. But I want to ask Fred and Lewis, if you guys, I think the most exciting moment during football that I could see I was a part of, we were at Lackey High School, and they had a pretty highly touted team, and we stayed competitive. And man, if I remember it right, they were leading us. We were tied, or we were behind by one. And at the end of the game, you all who are listening out there, you probably know about Doug Flutie. Went to Boston College, and that Hail Mary pass that he threw, that's how the Hail Mary pass got named, was what Doug Flutie threw. So I want to ask you guys, do you know, was it the last play of the game, or not?
I'm gonna let Lewis take this because I don't remember.
Okay, so what I'm going to tell them so they'll know what you're talking about, Lewis, is that's the first time after that game that I ever did any public relations or publicity. I called the Washington Post and said Lewis Martin threw a touchdown pass to Fred Jones. In other words, Fling connected on a pass to Kling. And they actually wrote that little bird. That started me on my PR journey. But look, do you know if that was the last play of the game?
It was the next to the last play. The fling cling combo, and we shot. Coach Gandy said Betty Jones.
Yeah.
And
so in other words, and Coach Gandy called the play Betty Jones, because if Lewis got up to the line and had to audible, Betty Jones meant Fred, because Fred could fly. Betty Jones meant go down the field and catch the ball.
They had us 19-13. We needed 7 points.
Yeah.
The extra point was the only thing that did it. But when Fred took off, we just threw it.
Yeah.
He ran under it. We beat them 20-19.
Man, that was I don't know. Some of you all might have some other stories about football.
20-19.
But that certainly was one of the exciting.
It set the world on fire for
because it was expected that that Lackey was going to whoop us up.
Right. They knew they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
Lackey was the leading team in Charles County at the time.
What do you say, Donnie? Wait.
Lackey was the leading football program in Charles County at the time. And we're a little C school, as you said.
That's right.
Playing Lackey, and I believe Lackey was A. I don't remember. I think they were A,
Yeah.
Class A. So, yes, Fling and Kling did it.
Right. Coach Gandy, got a question for you. When Coach Carney was coaching the basketball team, he also coached some baseball also. I played with him. When he was coaching with the head coach of the basketball team, did you know that you would eventually become the head coach?
I thought I would be. I qualified. I've been coaching already, and who would Biscontini?
That's right.
Biscontini.
Armin
Yeah.
Biscontini, principal.
I had to pay him off.
Principal Armin Biscontini. I can't talk about him without talking about Nimchek. Bernard and I had an incident, and we got in a fight with some other guys, and Carl Vole was one of them, and we were fighting him, and Donnie Gray came to the rescue. So we got called into the office, and I said we were trying to break the fight up. We weren't trying to fight. We were trying to break the fight up. And Nemchek said, "Stick with your lie, and I'll stick with y'all." That was very creative leadership. Some creative leadership we had. As a matter of fact, that white brother was whooping Bernard's behind. He was Carl Vole from the FFA, the Future Farmers of America.
There you go.
Yes, indeed. So, Earl Hawkins, I'm going to come to you. Earl Hawkins would be described accurately, I think, as a late bloomer.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you start as any of the games as a junior?
No.
Okay, so he did not start any games as a junior. Earl, at some point there was a criticism, was Earl didn't have good hands. But my God, I don't know what happened to you, what you did, and how you got prepared for your senior year, because you went from not starting any games to being a terror under the basket for all the games. And then these guys are relatively modest. I'm not. These guys, Earl set the state record. 6'4", right? 6'3", 6'4".
6'3".
At 6'3", you grabbed how many rebounds in the state championship game in 1970?
31.
31 rebounds. At 6'3", he was rising. He was rising out of the gym. Now, does that record still stand?
Yes.
That record still stands.
Yes.
53 years later. Yeah, we was some bad mamma jammas.
Hey, Rock.
Yes.
About a half an hour after the game, we got our trophies and everything. Earl still grabbing rebounds. He was snatching everything out of there.
And I would dare to say that record probably holds up anywhere in the country at that level.
Man,
at a high school level.
31 rebounds.
The
The
rumor is that I got most of those off of missed shots from
Yeah, I heard that.
from Donnie Gray. But that's just a rumor. Most of them, I think, 80% were the
So,
other
Donnie,
team.
I wanted to come to you. Well, you want to respond to that?
I'd like to have the opportunity to respond to that.
Yeah, okay.
The rebounds record is held by Earl because his putbacks were missed. So he was one side to the other putting them back.
All right. So, Donnie,
Touche.
let me ask you, I can ask any of you this, but on the basketball court, there was a, Coach Gandy, you had a zone 2-1-2, zone
Yeah,
2-2-1.
2-2-1 zone trap defense. You know, I watched a lot of sports in my lifetime. I don't know that I have seen anybody execute that defense better than what Gwynn Park did. And, you know, it was so extraordinarily based on speed, right?
Speed.
Donnie, what do you remember about that defense?
Let me tell you what I remember about he and James. The way they ran the press on the front of the press, it was unstoppable. They had free hand to do what they wanted to do. They wanted to put pressure in the backcourt. That's what we did. Yep. And they called it, but they didn't really call it.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Okay. So now,
to add to that, I would say that Coach gave James and I a free hand, but it was 5 of us out there.
Yeah.
And so we just listened to each other to start with. If James called it, we did it. If I called it, we did it.
Yeah.
We sought out early in the game, first 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
I remember Mr. Gandy saying, "You better be able to answer these questions when I talk to you.
Yeah.
How, if they're fast, if they're slow, if they play defense on their feet, if they're right-handed, if they're left-handed." James and I would figure that out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then we'd go for the jugglers.
Yeah.
And we'd go. We're talking the 2-2-1, but the main one was the Y zone.
Yeah.
The Y zone. Yeah, and we would throw that out there, and then we go to the 2-2-1, and I think the speed of it and the intelligence of knowing the game and working together, it was one unit. I think that's what our success came
You
from.
know, Coach, I just heard you say, they kind of did their thing, and that brings me to a comment that I know a couple of times because I've spent more time with this guy right here, Bernard Brooks, probably than I have with anybody else. We've been best friends forever. And I heard him say that he asked, did you ask Fred?
I asked Fred.
Yeah, he asked Fred Jones.
Yeah.
Fred, what play are we running? And so I'm tattletaling on Fred 53 years later, 54, because this is in 69. He asked Fred, what play are we running? Fred said, we just playing basketball. Those plays were for practice. We just out here balling. And while we on Bernard Brooks, there's something else. He hit 2 of the clutchest free throws in the history of Gwynn Park basketball. And he admitted later he didn't know why people were so hysterical and yelling and everybody was so uptight because he, Mr. Bernard Brooks, the left-hander, never looked at the shot clock, never looked at the clock. He didn't know how much time was left. He was just shooting free throws. He didn't know really even that the game was on the line. Am I right, sir?
I don't know.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you. And guys, I want to get to everybody and think about this as we're going forward. At some point, I'm going to ask you to describe your favorite moment of personal achievement while you played the sports that you played, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is. What would you want what play would you most want your grandchild or great-grandchild or great-great-grandchild to see? I'm going to come back to you first.
Okay. My first thing was holding everybody up before the game. Holding everybody up before the game. They would take the floor, but they couldn't start till I came out.
Oh,
I had a nervous problem. I was in the bathroom.
You were somewhere praying, right?
No, I would think that that free throw at the was the playoff game, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, over Sioux. Yeah, over Sioux. We played Douglas.
It was.
Yeah.
That was
Matthew
Douglas.
game.
Which was
That was a Douglas game in our home gym.
Yeah.
The first year.
which was
I thought it was a Sioux.
critical importance, and just to set the stage, there was a rivalry. Gwynn Park and Douglas was a serious rivalry.
Yeah.
So hitting those winning free throws, that's what you want your kids to see.
Yeah.
Bobby Stark,
Yes, sir.
man, talk to us about what you would want your grandkids, the play that you made or was involved in that you would want your grandkids
Well,
to
there's
see.
two.
Okay,
One,
you got it.
One is the Lackey football game.
Uh-huh.
I was the kicker on the football team. So when we tied the game up,
Yeah.
I had to kick the extra point.
You had to kick. It was you to kick the extra point. Okay.
So I remember the coach telling me, Bobby, just kick it like you do in practice all the time, you're fine.
Yeah.
As I was trotting out, they don't have the fields they have now.
Yeah.
With the nice fields, we had little clumps of grass and everything.
Yeah.
I tripped and fell right on my face running out there. And everybody on the other side in the lag is laughing and carrying on.
Yeah.
And somehow I got it through the goalpost.
Oh man. Okay.
So-
So you say you had two. That's a
The
good
other
one right
was-
there. That's
the
a
other
good one right
You
there.
know this one. I pitched the first no-hitter in Gwynn Park history, and you were the catcher
Man, oh man.
at Laurel High School in 1969.
Yeah. That. Yeah. He was on top of his game. Bobby was on top
Now
of his
he
game.
said, like he did in practice, he used to trip in practice.
There, some of you guys played baseball. I don't know if you remember, but there was an umpire called Happy. You might not remember. His name was Happy or whatever. And the longest ball that I ever hit in my life was that game. Was actually that game. I was never a home run hitter. I didn't have an upward swing. I was line drive. But some kind of way I got on the one there that went over the fence. It went over the width of the football field, not the length, over that, and then into the parking lot. And so I'm gonna guess that was, I don't know, maybe 450 or something, but Happy. Every time I saw him the next 20 years, he talked about that particular hit. Now look, there's somebody that couldn't make it today that I want to get you guys feedback, see what you think about this. During our era, Farley Banks, Farley and Kent, we know Kent as a just determined, dogged nose guard. He would get to tackle his man. I was playing linebacker, and Farley was the other linebacker, and Kent would get to him first. That boy had so many tackles. He was so tough, and he was small. But it's something I think about Farley and myself and all of us guys. If I had to vote, I would vote that during our era, 68, 69, and 70, that maybe Farley was the best athlete amongst us. He excelled in baseball. Mm-hmm. He excelled in football. He was adequate in basketball. No. So here's the thing. So I would ask you guys, do you have any other thought? I mean, you can even nominate yourself if you want. But I probably would vote.
I would vote Farley.
I would vote Farley. Yeah. You think that? Okay. All right.
There was one thing that I was always wondering about, Rob. You and Farley were home run hitters.
Right.
And you had that greenhouse out there.
Yes.
Now, who knocked out the most panels, you or Farley?
Well, I tell you what, I remember Farley knocking out a few.
Yes.
But I got in trouble just for trying to do what I was supposed to do. When I was in the 8th grade, this is one of my great experiences. When I was in the 8th grade, I politicked to get on the varsity baseball team after our season was over. And finally, I talked somebody into it. I don't know who it was, but they were like, yeah, okay. They'll throw you out there because you know they're going to blow you down. My first at-bat was facing the guy from Central High School who was supposed to be a great pitcher, and I got blessed to hit a home run. The ball smashed into the nurses. What was her name? Stephanie. What was the nurse name? Miss. Let's see. Whatever it was, she used to tell us all whatever problem we had. Take 2 aspirins and soak it.
Oh yeah.
It broke her windshield. She came out yelling and screaming while the game was going on. So, Nathaniel Magruder, talk to us about your favorite Gwynn Park moment that you would want your grandchild to see.
Well, I would say one game I remember. We had a score of 99 to something. We was beating someone. And that I went to the free throw line I had 2 shots. And we just knew we were going to go over 100. I went to the line, overconfidence, and missed both of them. I missed both of them. So yes, I would sit down and tell my grand, make sure you practice your free throws.
All right. Okay.
That was my favorite.
Okay, George.
Yeah.
George Saunders.
Yes, sir.
What you want your grandkids to see?
Well, one of my favorite moments probably was that it didn't even happen during a game. It actually happened in a game that prepped us before we went to the Kofi House in 1970. We actually played against 2 guys that ended up being all Mets, the Campbell brothers from Ballou. And we were playing the practice game here at Gwynn Park.
They were great. They were great.
And no matter who we played, this was a hard place to play.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the Campbell boys, they were kind of Mutt and Jeff. One was about 6'1", I was about 6'5". Well, I early on, I knew I had the ability to jump for my height. Yeah. And one of the Campbell boys broke away on the fast break. And I was coming down. It was like 1-on-1, 5'9", 5'10" against 6'5".
Yeah.
Well, he knew he was all Met.
Yeah.
And he knew he was going with an uncontested layup.
Yeah.
Well, my ability to jump allowed me to time him, and I blocked the shot.
Yeah.
And that gave me confidence to know that I could do more of that and become a better defensive player.
You know, George, you bring up something that I vividly remember, and what I remember about that block, because it was automatic, he was going to score.
Yes.
Is the crowd went stark raving crazy, man. I mean, folks, it was just something incredible. And one of the things I think all of you would acknowledge, that if it was 5 of you on the floor, or 9 of us on the baseball field, or 11 of us on the football field, we always had somebody else, and that was that crowd, man. We had our crowd, our community was just
travel team.
Man, I'm telling you.
Well, Donnie Gray said it best one time. I think it was at our reunion.
Okay.
We had about 13 years ago here.
2010. Yeah, 2010. Yeah.
Donnie said, whenever there was a game going on at Gwynn Park, you could go in and rob Brandywine because nobody was there. Everybody was at the game.
That's right. That's exactly right. Hawk, I don't think you said your favorite moment. The 3-year starting point guard, you must have a few.
Yeah, it's tough to come up with one. Boy, that's a tough one. There were a lot of good moments, but probably the one that stands out to me the most. I mean, the championship runs are just getting the trophies, all that is pretty obvious. But it was a game against Mackin, our junior year. Fred and I was playing guard. Shorty was at center, Dale's at forward, Bernard was at the other forward. And there's a few things about that game that's memorable. One is that Mackin was tied with the Mather for the #1 ranked team in the area.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they had 2 all-Met players, a guard and a center. Howard Matthews was a center,
and George Gibbs
was the guard. Yeah. 2 very good players. So they were playing us in our gym, and we were going back and forth, back and forth. Shorty, our center, got in foul trouble. Earl comes in the game, and that was his breakout game. We were talking earlier, this was his breakout game. Earl came in the game, scored 12 points in about, I don't know, it seemed like 10 seconds. He was just putting the ball in the basket all over the place.
Yeah.
So we came back, and Dale Adams went down the floor on the layup, and they called a charge foul. We said, he didn't charge into that guy.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And we lost by 2 points.
Yeah.
It was a very memorable game. It seems like yesterday. I can still remember it. We had them.
Yeah.
We had them. They were nationally ranked and everything. That's how good we were. We were really, really tough that year. As a matter of fact, I think we were the best team in the state that year. Because that year we played in the ABC League, which we did for all 3 of those years.
Yeah.
Fama Heights won a state championship. Central won a state championship. We beat both of them twice in the league.
Yes.
And the other team that
That's
won,
superiority right there, if anybody don't understand.
The other team that won the state championship was a AA team. I think it was Montgomery Blair. Yeah. They lost like 12 games during the year. They beat Poolsville by like, I don't know, 7 or 8 points. We blew them out of the game in our regional game by 40, 50, whatever it was. It wasn't even close. Yeah. So I honestly think we probably had the best team in the state that year. We played in the toughest league that year. That won 3 state championships. We were undefeated in that league. So those are the most memorable things for me.
Neil Branson. And look, we've all kind of seen each other, but we haven't seen Neil in like forever. Yeah. So Neil, you're back home. What you want your grandkids to see?
Oh my goodness. I would like for my well, they can't see it now because it's in the past. But the type of camaraderie that these teams that were birthed out of Gwynn Park that the guys had. I mean, it's just, you don't see that everywhere. I would like for them to at least be able to experience that. I don't have any grandkids yet, but that's the kind of thing. It's more or less not scoring the points and whatnot, but it's the unit. It's the closeness, and like I said, the camaraderie that brings a team together
what, Neil?
To perform as one.
Yes,
as a unit.
yes.
Okay.
That brings me to an interview that Bobby Stock and I did years ago. It was
Fox News with Allison Seymour.
The same 2010, and Bobby recounted, as opposed to me trying to say what you said. You know what I'm talking about. Why don't you share that story with the viewers and the teammates?
We were at Fairmont Heights High School, and I was a second string type of guy, but I was the only white guy on the basketball team. And we were at Fairmont, and when we went up, they did not like us. We did not like them. The gym was rocking, and all of a sudden they started bringing up, white boy, we want you. And it was when, remember the locker room was called the dungeon? Yeah. You're down there in the bottom of the dungeon. And I remember Coach Gandy said, we won't go up there without you. And I just said, and all the guys said, nope, we're all going as a team, we're going as one. Because we are like family.
Folks, I kind of thought in preparation for this gathering, this reunion of people that I love, that story may come up. And Bobby said it very nonchalantly. But it's the kind of thing we had only integrated. Gwynn Park had been an all-white school. We had only integrated just a couple of years before. And as I was preparing for this, I remembered that story. And you know what? You're talking about brothers in a foxhole. When you're in that foxhole and you're trying to survive and you're trying to win, you want to know when skin color doesn't make a difference is when you're trying to survive. And these brothers at that time, and when I say brothers, I'm talking about everybody sitting up here, because everybody in front of me, when we played together, we were brothers. Donnie, I think you wanted to comment.
I just wanted to go back to favorite moments, and I have two like Bobby, but I'm going to skip my personal favorite moment and say Neil covered it and Bobby covered it, but it's very important to understand, and I think everybody here can attest to what I'm about to say. When we won those state championships, I had the opportunity to look over at Coach, and I saw his face, and the look that I saw was he believed in us, and we accomplished the goal through him. Yeah. But it was him who got us there, and you can say we performed, etc., but he was the heart and soul. And I think for me, looking over at his face and saying, that's why I yelled at you in practice, that's why I made you do this, that's why I made you do that, and he believed in us, and I could understand then, from winning those 3 championships, what it meant to him. And that was one of my favorite moments.
One of my favorite moments for James was in junior high.
Okay.
We were on an undefeated junior high team.
Okay.
And we were playing, I think, Sassa? Yeah. And we were behind by 1. And the crowd was going crazy because we had like 3 seconds to go. They thought they had won the game. James got the ball, shot from half court. The ball went in slow motion. All we saw was net. And we won the game. We
James Hawk, Steph Curry.
Can I say something about that now?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Because what happened was we were winning by 1 and we got the ball with like 10 seconds to go.
Yeah.
Me, I'm going to throw it in to James.
Yeah.
Dribble it out.
Yeah.
What do? I drop it. I pick it back up. It had gone in, and I picked it back up. They gave it to Sasser.
Oh my Lord!
They
So
go
you was about to be the GOAT.
So they, oh yeah. 'cause
Yeah.
we were like 11-0 at the time. I mean,
Yeah.
we were going 12-0.
Yeah.
And Coach Merriman at that time is screaming at me and everything.
Yeah.
They go down and score. So guess what? Now I've got to throw the ball back into James, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to pass out.
Yeah.
But I give it to James, half court. He saved my life.
Switcheroo. Oh, folks, there's some time. So let me go back. Let me go back to my neighbor. So Lewis, when did you realize that you could take over as quarterback? At what point did the light bulb go off for you to say, I'm fighting hard for this position and I'm gonna take over this team as the quarterback?
In all honesty, I think the first time I walked onto the field, and after watching the former quarterback play, I knew I was ready. As far as athletic events, beating Douglas 36-6 that year,
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Beating Douglas 36-6.
Yeah.
That was it. But for the moment that means the most, this one right here. This moment.
Right now.
No empty chairs. We're all here. And after 53 or 54, or however many years it is, we're all here. And that same spirit, that same team unity, I believe even in this community, it's still here. But that's my favorite moment.
So Earl Hawkins, still holding the rebound record at Cofield House. What were you thinking? You got criticism. You got criticism as a freshman, sophomore. It was like you hadn't grown into your body yet. You were criticized for not having good hands. I don't know, with the guys excelling the way they were, had I been in that kind of position, if I would have stuck with it. I just don't know. I don't know if I would have. From where you came to where you ultimately arrived. What were you thinking during those times when you weren't getting any run in any play and you were getting criticized and made fun of sometimes?
Well, number one, Coach Gandy, Coach Carney, Coach Merriman, they kept me around.
Okay.
I guess because I was a little taller than everybody else, and they saw something in me I didn't see. The other thing was I never gave up. I always played. I mean, we played in the neighborhood. We went out. We played all the time. Softball, basketball, whatever we could. And so I can remember hot days by myself at Brandywine Elementary playing. Also with pickup games at Brandywine Elementary with John Randall, Hooks, all these guys from the neighborhood. We played. I mean, so those are the things I give credit to the people who, the coaches, number one, didn't give up on me, kept working with me. Coach Merriman and his hook shots all the time. Coach Gandy always worked with us on fundamentals and things like that, and then giving me the opportunity to play. So
hold on one second. I got you. So Coach Gandy, got a question for you. Earl was not as proficient and as efficient and as effective and as skilled as many of the other players were. He grew up to be a superstar. What was it that you saw in him that you kept him working, you kept him a part of the team? What was it in Earl that you saw that made you believe in him?
He's just a natural hard worker. And you can't, there's no substitute for it, I don't think. He did the job. He was ready to play. That's back when if you didn't play in the varsity game, how did it work?
Yep.
And then he would run in and play the JV game. A lot of guys would be too proud to do that, in my opinion. Earl's a great guy.
Gotcha.
Rock, you'd asked a question about records.
Yeah.
And Coach handed me this piece of paper here, and I think your audience need to know this kind of information. We've won 5 state championships in 7 years. The 2 that we lost were under 6 points combined. There was 1 losing season in 18 years of his tenure, 800 wins as a coach. 1968 to 1976, 150, 46 losses, 150 victories. 1973 to 77, 39 and 12, which kind of culminated his season. We were involved in 9 of 13 state championships. And Earl, correct me and chime in, please, if you will. We still hold probably about 9 records at the states. Class C, Class B, and Class A. Nobody's won all 3. We've won all 3. Several years. 68, 69, it was talked about earlier. We beat Fairmount Heights twice, and Fairmount Heights was the darling of the press.
Yes.
And we beat them twice.
Yeah.
In the same week.
In the same week. In the same week.
Yeah.
Huh?
About 30 points or more, and Freeman said on the second row of the bleachers, he said nobody has ever done that.
Right.
Yeah.
In the same week.
The Yellow Jackets. The Yellow Jackets.
Yeah. And just concluded that at that time, and that we were talking earlier, all Mets came from either the Catholic League or DC schools.
Yes.
But we had a train of guys that could have been all Met first or second teams.
Yes.
We haven't mentioned Shorty Simmons very much here. We haven't mentioned Dale Adams very much here.
Greg Banks.
Greg Banks. Shorty, Ron
Harmon.
Shorty and I went to
Ron Harmon.
Oh,
Ron
yeah.
Harmon.
Oh,
Chuck
Seal. Oh, my God.
Chuck
Was
Seal.
so strong.
Yeah. And then we can come forward. After us, you got the Mark Clarks.
Yeah.
You got the
Sonny
Boy
Sonny
Proctor. Sean, Cornell Banks, Wendell Magruders.
Yeah.
So they're not here today because Rock specifically wanted this group here. But I said something to the press when we had the Gwynn Park Day in 2010. And they said, well, what makes all these people, why do they want to be here? And I said, because everybody bleeds black and yellow.
Yellow, that's right.
Red. Everybody bleeds black and yellow.
The Yellow Jackets.
The Yellow Jackets. And I
Yes,
think, and they put it in the papers. I think they understood basically what everybody's saying here now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, Rock, just to...
1 second. Nathaniel, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, Neil was talking about our camaraderie. I think that started from Mr. Hal Matthews.
Hello.
Yes, there you go.
And
Hello.
He had a green and white Chrysler.
Yes.
And he used to put 7 or 8 of us in a car.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Yeah.
And we got to
Basketball,
the point,
football, and baseball.
Exactly.
All around.
We got to the point that we took from him, and we took a 5. We used to play in Brandywine, Maryland Gardens,
DC.
Hillcrest Heights.
Yeah.
And we learned each other then by playing together every Saturday or Sunday. We used to always go, and nobody could hardly beat us then.
Horseback riding first.
Exactly.
And you know what, man? There was an incident that's etched in my brain, and I know it was me and Howard Matthews. I think it was Kirk and Donnie. I forget if you were involved. No, well, that's another fight. That's another fight. No, but here's what I'm talking about. Here's the kind of respect we had for Howard Matthews. We had skipped school. I think it was me, you, Kirk, and Howard. 4 of us had skipped school. Went into 8th Street in D.C. to buy some clothes. Thought Art Young and Cavaliers. Thought we were cool and grown. Come back down the road at about 2 o'clock. We hitchhiking out by on Branch Avenue, Oarsman Chevrolet. We see this car coming, and it looks like Mr. Matthews' car. And we're all saying, no. Man, it was Mr. Matthews. We were sweating bullets. All of us was clamoring to get in the back seat. We all 4 got in the back seat because nobody wanted to get up front. because we knew we were getting ready to get a tongue lashing, and that man looked in that mirror and never said anything to us all the way home. We was hoping he'd punch us out, but that silent, disappointed look. We had reverence for him. We respected him so much, and absolutely, when I got my Hall of Fame award and trophy at Howard University, I invited he and his wife to come up, Miss Matthews, and I dedicated my Hall of Fame trophy to Mr. Matthews, and it was well deserved. Absolutely well deserved.
Yeah, you made a difference. Talking skipping school, you remember Fred?
Yeah, yeah. So Fred Jones was thinly built, quick, absolutely, not just quick, but gazelle fast. Really thinly built. First of all, let me ask you this question. Who was it that convinced you to play football?
Don't remember his name. It was our civics teacher. He actually called me out in class and said I didn't have the nerve to come out there.
So you wanted to show him you had the nerve.
I told him, I'll come out. I'm not going to block anybody, but I'll come out.
Well, we know you're not going to block anybody.
Okay. Because I remember playing tight end, and I remember a play being called where you had to block. Not only did you have to block, you had to block maybe the best linebacker or in the county, maybe in the whole DM. What was his name? John
Watson.
John Watson. John Watson from Potomac.
From Potomac. Yeah.
So the play was called. It was a reverse.
Yep.
And you had to block John Watson, and you tried.
No, it didn't.
All I know is
Let me say, I was so nervous that when they snapped the ball, I tripped. And tripped into him, and he lit me up.
I just remember, Lewis, you will remember this also. Neil, were you the one getting the ball on the reverse on that play?
It could have been.
I think it was Neil.
At the end of the round?
Yes, that was it. Fred, you need to turn back and just punch Neil. Just for you being involved like that. No.
Did he tackle you too, Neil?
Several of us looked at Fred lying there, and we all years later recounted the same story, that his eyes were in the back of his head and a lot of snot was coming through. George said snot. And it was just like, man, Fred is so small, might he get hurt and not be able to play basketball?
Yeah, but Coach Merman said to Coach Gandy, wake him up. No, wipe his nose. Wipe his nose. Coach Gandy said, wake him up and let him wipe his own nose.
I told you we had love. I told you we were all about love.
That was a memorable game because I think we played them at Potomac.
Yes, we did.
And it was actually our best football season ever because that game ended in the 6-6 tie. And I had a memorable moment in that game because they had a big quarterback. It was about 6'4", 250. Just before the half, he broke away, and it was just him and I. And I knew I had to make that tackle before the half. We ran together, and I don't remember even playing the second half, so I concluded years later I must have had a concussion because I don't even remember playing the second half, but that game ended in the 6-6 tie.
Wow.
Now, I also remember that our junior year, '69, Fred and Lewis were doing their thing. I remember in '69, all of us sitting here as juniors were starters on that varsity football team. Howard Matthews not here. He was.
Four cornerbacks in the safety.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we haven't mentioned was the coaches' strike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, we lost 4
Go ahead.
Our senior
missed 4
year,
games.
we believed in the coaches. Coaches believed in us. They asked us to support them. And we did because they've been supporting us over the years. and they couldn't attend practices, they couldn't do anything. But somehow, James or myself got information that practice was that afternoon, and mostly James ran it, I think. But we practiced, even though we're waiting for the strike to end. We supported the coaches.
Yeah.
We supported the Coach Gandy.
Yeah, and I remember
Yeah.
years later, you know, getting
that was
credit
good.
for
That
that, and I'd actually forgotten that. Yeah. So I think I always had a propensity to some kind of activism of some sort, having been the ultimate Muhammad Ali fan. Again, Lewis was a year ahead of me, and Lewis developed a habit of borrowing his parents' car without their knowledge.
And no license.
Just a loan, though.
And Lewis, I remember us man stealing off one evening to a Black Panther meeting up at Prince George's Community College. So I mentioned the fact that we integrated the school just a few years before, and we fought. Blacks and whites absolutely fought. But it was through athletics more than anything else, in my estimation, that we got to understand, to know each other, and to become comrades. And it was a time, you know, look what we're talking about, 68, 69, 70, 68, you know, look at all the turmoil. Martin Luther King gets shot, Robert Kennedy gets shot, the riots happened, all of that. So we lived through that time frame, and we came to depend on each other so much that there was the kind of respect and friendship established that makes us all love that we're right here today, 53 years later. You know, it truly was some of the best times of certainly my life, and I think of our lives.
Oh, yeah.
But to your point, Rock, I think, and Neil's as well, it was the camaraderie. It started with the principal. It was the perfect storm for us to have Mr. Biscontini as the principal, Italian, I think, Mr. Nemchek, I think what's the tall gentleman, Mr. Kidwell, the vice principal, but also for the coaches, Coach Gandy, Coach Carney, and Mr. Merman, which had been here prior.
Yeah.
And it's the way they handled the situation.
Yeah.
And I think this still happens to today to a certain degree. It's sports that unite people. We can all be united for those special moments, Super Bowls, when your team's there, and then we forget all about it once it's over. That never seemed to happen here.
Yes.
And it was because of the leadership. And we all believed in one another. And it was a good feeling. The spirit was always there.
So two things, two reflections I have. Mr. Kidwell, I was 16. I guess I was in the 10th grade at the time, 10th or 11th.
No.
And I asked Mr. Kidwell one day, I said, Mr. Kidwell, how old are you? He said 29. I said, damn, you really old. Look at us now. But the other thing with Biscontini was a dapper dresser. And I don't know whether he paid out of his own pocket or how it happened, but he had all the guys on the basketball team dressed in those gold blazers with that Gwynn Park emblem, man.
He paid out his own pocket. He paid out his own pocket.
How'd you guys feel about that, man? That was
great.
That was special.
Yeah, that was our first championship year. Exactly 55 years ago. That was our first state championship.
And not only that.
And he wanted us to look nice. We were playing unbelievable basketball, so he wanted us to look nice as well.
Yeah.
And that's what
that remains special to me.
Yes.
And we
y'all
also
was
had,
sharp, man. Y'all was sharp in those.
You also remember when he called the whole school to the gym, and he gave the teachers and everybody ride access. I remember him saying, "You're supposed to be educators, and you need to educate these kids to get along."
Uh-huh.
I remember that statement.
Discontinued. Yeah.
And I remember after every game that we would win championship, during the championship, we had steak dinners.
Wow.
You remember that?
Yeah, we always went out to dinner.
Yeah.
We go out to dinner.
Yeah.
We going out to dinner today,
Hey,
Coach?
so anybody want to take a stab at who your favorite teacher was at Gwynn Park?
Miss Nickens.
Miss Nickens.
Oh, and we got this on film. I'm sending this to her. I stay in touch with her. Me and Donnie, we used to call her Aunt Gladys. Absolutely.
I would say mine was Mr. Gandy. He taught me driver's ed.
Yeah, I have to say Mr. Gandy too.
Well, if
He
Mr.
taught me
Gandy
driver's
taught you
ed.
driver's ed, he need to be fired.
He taught me driver's ed. Can I share Rocker with a quick story about Miss Nickens, and I'll tell you why she was my favorite?
Sure.
She, English teacher, 12th grade,
Yep.
and I remember one day I used to always like to sit back to the back of the class, and to get me to participate more. I think she poured me right up in front of her. I had to sit right in front of her in the desk. But somehow we had these, I call them, I don't know, the little rooms, teacher rooms in the back of the classroom. Do you guys recall those? Little private rooms that close the door.
Sure.
Well, we were all in the classroom, and it was getting near the end of class, and somehow she went back in there, and I don't know if we were taking the test or doing something, but she got herself locked in the room, and nobody would go back and open the door because she couldn't get out. Well, it was the class was just before lunch break, and so, and I think we all were afraid to do it, but anyhow, the bell rang, and so everybody went on their way. I stayed behind.
She's still in the room?
No, I stayed behind. And I went back there and opened the door, and she was actually teary-eyed.
Oh, man.
And she didn't want to go to the cafeteria to have lunch.
Yeah.
And I asked her would she want me to go pick her lunch up. And nobody knows this. I'm just sharing this for the first time.
Neil raised his hand. He was like, Neil, I remember that.
Yeah. And so I got her lunch. I brought it back to her, and I sat there. And I, I guess now it would be considered inappropriate. Well, she hugged me, and I hugged her back.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, the woman was gorgeous anyhow. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to be wiping this hug off in a minute. and after I graduated, I didn't see her again.
That young man.
I hadn't seen her again. I hadn't seen her again until 2010.
Back in 2010,
did that. And I went up to her because everybody knew I was quiet, unassuming, real timid.
Yeah.
And I saw her, and I said, Miss Nickens, I'm not afraid of you now.
Well, just so you guys know, she received some high honors recently from Carson Newman College.
Yes.
She was the first black, I think, to attend Carson Newman. And they brought her down and featured her and gave her a lot of stuff, and she's still doing well. She's doing, God is my witness.
Wow, that's great.
Every now and then when I'm writing something, or I'm getting ready to do a speech, and I get stuck, do I say what I did? What? I call Miss Nickens, Miss Nickens, is this right? Literally to this day.
Oh, wow.
To this day, I will call her and say, am I saying this right? She was like, darling, no, I'm on the damn radio. And I'm talking, doing a show, Mr. Big Shot. And I'm saying, we gonna conversate. We gonna through the whole damn show, we're gonna conversate. And after it was over, she said, called and said, baby, it's converse. It's like, oh Lord, why didn't you call me while I was on? Why didn't you call me while I was on the air? So I will ask you guys this. We all have an affinity for sports. So we talked about your personal experiences at Gwynn Park. Can we run down the line and get a response to what your favorite sports moment has been outside of Gwynn Park? Start with you, Hoss.
Working with you, with Riddick Bowe.
Oh man, that's cool. That's cool. He was invaluable. Covered me every step of the way, man. I got a whole lot of credit that a lot of other people deserve, and Bernard has been you know, just my best and my backbone. And let me say while I'm saying that, you see this brother back here, he probably can't, the audience probably can't see him because all the cameras are turned this way. But Avis J. Savista right there, there would be no Rock Newman show if it wasn't for Avis, and he's been a friend and a partner. Earl, what's your favorite moment outside of Gwynn Park sports?
I guess just being a coach and an educator. You know, having coached at Crossland, coaching at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and working with young people.
And Earl was also director of athletics for Prince George's County.
Yes.
Is that what,
yes.
that's
17
what it's
years.
So,
yes.
you know, a champion at Gwynn Park, a leader, and then went on to continue to lead along his way. Bobby, what's your favorite moment?
Being a baseball coach down at Brandywine Little League. I was for Brandywine Lions. I was for 10 years. Just being with the young guys and watching them 12 years old and under, just getting so excited about baseball. And
you know, and Gwynn Park, I'm sure, Bobby, must have given you, and being around the brothers and all that, must have just obviously gave you so much, because Bobby used to play with the Washington Black Sox. That's one of the elite teams in the area. And it was like there was no step back, get back, scared, intimidation, or anything else. Bobby was in there competing every
And that was 2 reasons with that. One was you, because you were my friend all through high school, and we went right on up there and played. But also it was Glenn Harris.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A great person. I mean, he caught me.
Yeah.
And he just made me feel like I was Don Drysdale.
Man, he's going to see this and love it. George?
Mine's probably for me was 1979. The Orioles won the World Series, and they had a home game there. And it was so memorable for me because a guy actually got hit with a foul ball, and he was asleep at a World Series game.
Oh, my Lord.
And I'm thinking, wow, who does that?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yes, and so now I'm an avid Oriole fan still. And you know, I can't get enough of baseball now, especially the O's.
I hear you, man. Nathaniel, what's your favorite moment?
I think mine is I get out every morning walking, and I've helped many people as far as to get them to walk early. And I've been walking pretty much for since 1974. And I do pretty much 4 or 5 miles every day. And
My Lord.
And I've helped many people to be more, to get more into walking and be
fit.
Really
All right,
about
man.
walking. So
all right.
I really love doing that.
Good for you. Good. Now, I got one question for you. If you had to answer the question of who was the best bid whist player, you or Wendell, who would you say?
He likes to beat me, and I like to beat him. So,
I remember that boy when he was 10 years old, tearing us old folks up playing bid whist. My Lord.
He's good.
Man, he's good. Yeah.
My favorite is, I have 2. One is the lady of my life, Vita Gray.
Vita Gray.
Two would be through basketball, player, then became an official, and discovering how much I loved officiating as I did with basketball. So those 2.
I've said this many times. I don't know if you guys have ever heard me say it, but I've said it privately and I've said it publicly. The NCAA championship game, get what year it was, that Donnie refereed was the most perfectly performance done by a referee in history. You talk, man, that is the standard by which all referees should learn and be judged. Coach Gandy.
Working with Gwynn Park athletes and students, the best. I couldn't be any better. My wife talks to Donnie a few times. She says, you have the nicest, they have the nicest people, nicest kids, do anything for you.
And I'm gonna follow that question and your answer up with this. I heard rumblings of there being an effort to name the Gwynn Park basketball arena gym after Coach Gandy. I heard some rumblings of that, not a whole lot. Something needs to be done to memorialize and to honor Coach Larry Gandy. I don't have any apologies for saying that. That man helped mold all of us and many before and after us. There needs to be some recognition forever for Coach Larry Gandy. There you go.
And not only was he a coach, and he also taught me math. He was a great teacher. And sometime to this day, I wonder if I got a good grade in there because he knew me. I played sports, so I really earned it.
I hope he taught you more. I hope he taught you better how to count. Because this man's driving over here. Hawk, what's your favorite moment outside of Gwynn Park sports?
I guess I have two as well. One, like Donnie, I married my high school sweetheart, Stephanie.
Stephanie!
Middle school.
Y'all started going together in junior. Y'all started going together in junior high school.
That was a long, long time ago, but we were still together. We had beautiful kids and grandkids, so that's just great.
All
the
right.
other thing is just writing the book about our 3P.
Yeah.
Started 55 years ago. Everybody in the book, players of mine, all 3 years, enjoyed playing with all of them. We all had a very hard work ethic. We was a very talented group, and that's how you end up with 3 state championships.
Wow. Neil, what's your favorite sports moment? Team, whatever.
Outside of here, it's probably stems in what I was exposed to here in the sporting arena here at Gwynn Park, especially in the field of track and field. I was able to learn and develop skills there or here at Gwynn Park that afforded me the opportunity to, when I went off to school at Wake Forest, they scheduled a decathlon meet in Winston-Salem that year, my sophomore year. And because of what I learned here with these guys, Coach Merriman, Gandy, what I was taught, the how to do this, how to do that, proper, I won that meet down in Winston-Salem.
Congratulations, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, wow.
So, I know that Donnie's bride is here and Hawk's bride is here, so they're excluded from this comment. But everybody else, Neil Ransom, had a crush on your sister. Corvus. Who was the cheerleader?
I know.
Fred, what's your favorite moment outside of Gwynn Park sports?
But I guess overall, it's just been working with my son, my daughter, and now my grandson, and teaching them different aspects of sports. Whichever sport they chose, I tended to work with them on that, and that kind of lifted me when I could sit back and see them progressing.
Watching the Gwynn Park basketball games, man, I gotta say, watching Fred run away. Fred was so fast and could jump, just could run past people, just could fly past them, just could get away. It was an absolute joy, and with Hawk there on the point, and man, you all were a beautiful machine. Lewis, what's your favorite?
As most of you know, I spent 21 years in the Navy, but before that, I went to Gwynn Park High School, and when I joined the Navy, there were 14 African Americans in my company. And I watched all 13 of them go home because they couldn't swim.
Ooh.
Now, Gwynn Park taught me how to run, play basketball, football, no pickleball, but they didn't teach me how to swim here. I dog paddled 150 yards down to the end of the pool and back. When I got back to the end, they said, all you got to do is climb out. I said, if I have to climb out of here, this is where I'm going to end my life. So they fished me out, but that's what kept me in the Navy. The only thing that kept me dog paddling for 150 yards to stay in was Gwynn Park.
Wow.
I learned to do it all right here.
Wow, man. All right. Hey guys, is it anything that any of you want to say that we have missed? We got a couple of minutes before we got to shut it down. Take it for it. If not, we're going to go over here and have some good food.
Well, I'd like to thank you for putting this together. We don't see each other every day during the week, but we try to get together at least once a year, all of us. And that stems from 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. It's just friendships that were built with some solid work back then, and they still hold true now. So thank you for putting this together.
Man, and I got to say,
one couple of things I'd like to say is, first of all, we were very good athletes. We played multiple sports. I played football, played basketball, of course, ran track, played baseball in middle school until I got spiked over my eye. And I said, I'm going to run track from here on out. But we also participated in school organizations.
Yeah.
Was it the president of the class, vice president, multiple clubs. Because we only had 178 boys in our high school, so it's not a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
So we did multiple sports. And then afterwards, we were still very close. Like Earl is a godchild of my son.
Uh-huh.
And Bernard married my sister.
Yes.
You know, so we all connected.
Yeah.
We travel around quite a bit. You know, some of us do. So it all springs from Gwynn Park.
Yeah.
That's the origin of it all, the genesis of it all.
The Yellow Jackets.
That allowed us to spring and do, wonderful things the rest of our life.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Do it again.
Yeah,
One more time.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks,
When I thought about this and the kind of response that I got from you guys, it just warmed my heart, and it more warms my heart that we're all here today and we can just love on each other. And thank you again so much. Folks, you just saw a labor of love. If this was labor at all, it was absolutely a labor of love. And I just love the idea that we were able to do this today because we own what we do. And we didn't have to ask nobody's permission. That's what we want to keep on doing. We will see you the next time. Go in peace and God bless.
Thank you.